Okay, hello and welcome to Q Today, the show for May 29th and June 1st. I'm Ron Campbell. I'm sitting in for Mitch Vick, who is off for a few shows. Allison.
Thanks, Ron. And I'm Allison Duddy, your other host for this program. Coming up after the news, we have the second part of Nate's interview with independent MLA Bob Simpson. So stay tuned for that, coming up a little bit later.
Well, that'll be interesting to listen to. Before we get into the news, we'd just like to say welcome and thank you for watching us, and to remind you that our weekday show runs from Tuesday at 5 p.m. to Friday at 8 p.m. a.m. And the weekend offering airs from Friday at 5 p.m. to Tuesday at 8 a.m. We broadcast daily at 8 a.m., 5 p.m., and 10 p.m. And once Shaw gets us up on their indication on the program schedule, we won't have to say that anymore.
That's right.
Yeah. And I won't get confused.
So if you have any comments on the program, you can reach us by email at qcatv.ca. And if you'd like information on how to sponsor us, you can give Nate a call at 992-3650. And of course, as always, we'd like to thank the Quesnel Caribou Observer for providing some of the stories that we cover here on Q Today.
Yes, and we'd like to remind the viewers that we just give the highlights here on Q Today. If you want to read the full story, please pick up the Quesnel Caribou Observer. And now, to put a face to the news, here's Allison.
Thanks, Ron. Well, last Wednesday, Mayor Mary Schustrom and Regional District Chair Ted Armstrong unveiled the new multi-center signage outside the Twin Arenas. The sign is designed to raise awareness and help with fundraising efforts. One fundraising project that kicked off recently is the seat sale, which allows purchasers to personalize a new seat in the arena. Pamphlets with order forms can be downloaded at www.ourmulticenter.com, or they can be picked up at the multi-center booth at the Farmers Market or at City Hall. So far, 30 seats have been sold out of an available 1,500. A little bit of a slow start. Armstrong said it's been a tough road up until now, adding residents should email Member of Parliament Dick Harris to show their support for the new facility.
I certainly hope it takes off, and I certainly hope that the only thing that is ever in that site is just a sign.
That's right. Good point, Ron. Thanks.
You're welcome. Allison, last year we had over 600 bears were destroyed because they came in contact with us humans, meaning you and I. And as we have invaded their territory with our homes and our roads and our forest removal and mining and our outdoor activities, the Caribou Chilcotin Zone Conservation Officer, Ryan McIntyre, stated that 280 inspections were carried out to be an effective bear awareness campaign and to try to reduce the human/wildlife conflict that is happening throughout the area. Enforcement personnel attended West Quesnel, Johnson Sub, and Abbott Heights to inspect locations where quantities of food attractions, remember that word, attractions, would normally be stored or contained. Basically, attractions are our garbage, our wasted fruit that lands in and around our fruit trees, and our compost piles, any fish or carcasses of animals that we have thrown out. These attract bears. So our message to you, the viewers out there, and to ourselves, is we have to clean up our act. If we don't, we could be fined for non-compliance from $230 to $345. If we are told that we have bear attractants and didn't do anything about it. So let's bear down and try and save our bears from being destroyed just because we are too lazy to clean up our yards and homes, to make sure they're clear of garbage. And I'm sorry, but they're called bear attractants. Please be aware, clean up. We don't want to destroy any more of our wildlife that we have to. Allison.
600 bears, that's an awful lot.
That's too many.
That's heartbreaking to me. I'm a real wildlife fanatic. I love going out for drives and seeing, you know, the animals out and about, and to think 600.
Yeah. Well, every time you see a bear in a
tragic.
garbage can or something like that, and then
Yeah.
they show up and destroy it, it's heartbreaking.
It's really just common sense. I
Yep.
mean, you know, we need to smarten up. We're the ones here that, like you say,
Exactly.
have sort of invaded their territory.
Yes, they're not invading us. I
That's
mean,
right.
There's no bears outside right now, I hope.
I hope so too. Well, Danica Hebert wrote an article for last Friday's Observer about a couple of downtown businesses that have recently or are in the process of doing some renovations. The renovations at Fraser River GM are in conjunction and comply with a national rebranding project that GM has undertaken. And the list of projects covers every aspect of the business, with major exterior and entranceways being key components according to their owner Shane Thone. Thone feels that this project will enable GM to create a more consistent experience for customers, adding the purpose of the facility image program is to create a uniform dealer network across Canada and enhance the franchise brand strength. The new dealership hopes to have all projects completed by this July. And another downtown business, which has recently undergone a facelift, is Spa Rivier. Owner Donna Felker and daughter Deanna McCulloch have been thinking about doing this work since attending a seminar in Vancouver about 3 years ago. Felker explains that she saw a presentation there from a designer specializing in spas, and that's when she started thinking about this project and doing some work. It took 7 months from start to finish, Felker stated. We took it to a more upscale look, and now it's what I always pictured it to be. So the next step for Spa Rivier is adding aromatherapy and wellness to its menu of services. And even though it wasn't in the article, Ron, I have noticed in the last couple months that Mr. Mike's is also doing a big reno. I think they're starting to wrap it up, so hopefully they'll be opening up again soon too.
I do too. I love their steaks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rentals going on, and they look really nice. The car dealership one is coming along quite well.
Yeah.
And there's also rentals out in the subdivisions too. I believe the Campbells are doing some rentals.
Oh,
too.
really? Doing a bit of work, are you, over at your
But
place?
it's not going to be the Western.
No?
No. Seniors update. A seniors group that was recently formed met at the Legion on May the 17th, and there was over 42 people there. And Peter Nielsen, who is the chairperson and founder of this group, they invited Michael McMillan of the Northern Health and Margaret Sadlin, who is the local administrator for our hospital, and the Quesnel home care person, Ketty McLellan, I believe is how her name is pronounced, I hope. The three of them outlined the programs that are available to seniors here. They discussed the wait list for various term care that is available for seniors. There are 117 beds that are available. The wait list for assisted living at Mayford Place is 12 to 18 months. According to Macmillan, we are comparable to Prince George as far as assisted living units go. But that's hard to say, but there's a lot of private units there that are available too for seniors. The next meeting for the senior group will be June 21st at 2 p.m. at the Legion. If you're concerned about what is there for seniors, especially in regards to assisted living, please be at that meeting and let your side be known. Allison.
Thank you, Ron.
It's close to my heart, seniors.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there soon.
Yeah. Well, as a thank you to the staff at Quesnel's two A&W restaurants, the Multiple Sclerosis Self-Help Group presented them with carnations in May, which is MS Awareness Month. The group thanked the staff for the company's help in raising funds through their Cruising for a Cause event, which is set to take place again this year on August the 23rd. Last year, the two A&W restaurants in Quesnel raised $3,600 on Cruisin' Day. Often diagnosed between 15 and 40 years of age, the prime of your life, MS is a lifelong chronic illness that can be disabling and devastating to those who are diagnosed with it. After diagnosis, people must learn how to deal with symptoms associated with having MS, such as fatigue, spasticity, and mobility issues also. The Quesnel Self-Help Group meets monthly, giving people living with MS the opportunity to connect with others living with this life-changing disease, and it also creates a sense of community for those affected. And I can relate to that, Ron. I do a lot of things with the BC Paraplegic Association.
Oh, yes.
And just having a group of your peers, you know, that you can talk to about situations and issues that might come up as a result of your disability, it's very helpful. It's very rewarding to be able to help other people also in that situation. So
because you have an understanding of what they're going through. Mm-hmm. I'm part of the cancer support group for prostate cancer for men. And it's the same sort of thing. If you can sit down and talk to someone who has gone through the same problems, it brings you a little closer and a little understanding.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You know, after I was first injured, they had someone come in to talk to me about my disability and things that I could expect through my recovery and stuff. And this person walked into my room and said, "I understand how you're feeling." And I just,
how could you?
I did. I shot back and said, like, how could you understand? You didn't wheel in here in a wheelchair. Yeah. And so, like I say, with the Paraplegic Association and obviously with the MS, you know, self-help group, it's good. It's good to have those people there that can look at you and say, "I do understand," and you know that they mean it.
Yes.
You know, and that in itself just helps.
But looking at you and how you get around and so forth, I never look at you as being in a wheelchair.
Oh, thanks, Ron.
Well, we're going to talk about biking. It may look like I have a bike shirt on, but it's not. It's really for golf, but we'll leave it at that. Brian Mancoe is reducing his carbon footprint, and he says riding his bicycle is a great de-stressor. Not for me, Allison, because every time I walk by my bike that's got dust and cobwebs on it, it stresses me out that I haven't used it. He goes on to say that Quesnel is not a very bicycle-friendly town. It appears that neither the bicyclists nor the motorists here are following the rules of road. My brain is getting ahead of my tongue, or my tongue is getting ahead of my brain. I'm not too sure which. I'm so concerned about my bicycle sitting there all by itself. He goes on to say that it's not a very bicycle-friendly town. It appears that neither the bicyclists nor the motorists are following the rules of the road, as aggressive drivers are very scary to him. Well, they are to me too, Brian, and I'm in a car. So both sides have to exercise patience and courtesy on the road, he says. Brian describes his bike as a Brody computer bike, which is better than an everyday bike, say something like mine. In 7 years, he's had 5 encounters with, guess what, bears, and several other encounters with different wildlife, but never a serious problem. And good for you, Brian. You're reducing your carbon footprint. And for all you viewers out there, mark this on your calendar. June 6th is Clean Air Day. And it's also a very important day in my life, as it's my 48th wedding anniversary.
Really?
So I better remember both, don't you think?
It's an important day in my life. Also, Ron, that's my dad's birthday.
Well,
so
there
June
you
6th
go.
is a big day.
So you can mark that on your calendar. You can send cards or wishes to the station or to our...
Yeah, right. Oh, Ron.
Well, I guess you have to go on in sports here.
Yes. Moving on into sports, there were a couple of rodeos that took place over the May long weekend. First, on May 19th and 21st, Carameus held the Elks Rodeo, where a couple of locals did very well. Steve Homan took home top honors on Jedi in the saddle bronc, as well as a second place finish in bull riding on Heartbreaker, and Taylor Cathcart secured second place in junior breakaway roping. In 100 Mile House, the gang from Quesnel did even better. Steve Homan continued to make his mark with a first in bareback and again in saddle bronc. Lane Wills took second in junior barrel racing, followed by Taylor Cherry in third. Dustin Spears won junior steer riding, and he was followed by Clay Waterhouse in second. And Ron, my little nephew, Dyson Leneve, took the Pee Wee barrel racing first place in 100 mile too. So he was really happy about that. So congratulations to all the cowboys and girls that attended the Karameas and 100 mile rodeos on the long weekend.
Yeah. Steve Holman, that's quite a good family name here in Quesnel, and he's been around for, well, not a long time because he's much younger than me, but he's been in the rodeo business for a while, and I'm glad that he's doing so well.
Yeah, had a great weekend.
And some more sports. This is on soccer. The U16 team, boys team in Kamloops, won the Slurpee Gold Cup, as the team did not allow one goal, nor did they get any yellow cards. Yellow cards is if you do something wrong.
Yep.
I've had a few of those, and I wasn't even playing soccer.
Does your wife have yellow cards that she puts up for you?
Red ones.
Red ones.
Cam Duchesne, the coach, said the players put in a great effort, and he was very happy with the sportsmanship and team play that they showed. All in all, it was a great tournament because the girls, Denny Strikers, also hit gold with 3 wins and a tie that netted them top spot. Our soccer teams are doing quite well in the tournament field.
Good, good. So Ron, I had the opportunity to go and check out the roller derby on Saturday night at the Twin Arenas. Our local Gold Pane City Derby girls took on the Energetic City team from Fort St. John. And it was fascinating. It was exciting. It was fast-paced. It was fun to watch. Our girls, they seemed to come out a little bit slow at the beginning of the first half. They were down, I don't know, probably by a good 15 or 20 points, and they rallied at the end of the first half to come within 2. I think it was about 44 for the guests and 22 or 42 for us after the first half. And then going into the second half, they came out a little bit sluggish again. And Energetic City built up a little bit of a lead, but as again in the first half, our girls came out strong at the end and pulled out the win. I believe the final score was about a 103 to 92.
Wow.
So lots of fun. I would highly recommend. They're having a couple of bouts coming up at their Billy Barker Days Rumble, and I would just highly recommend, if you're into that kind of thing, to go and check them out because it was awesome.
Couple of questions.
Yes. Sir.
How is the scoring done? Is it every time you knock a person over, or?
No, it's a little bit complicated. There are some people talking behind me. I don't know what's going on, but the idea is you've got 2 girls, one from each team,
Yes.
that are skating against each other, and they have little stars on their helmet, and the star goes from player to player. But in each round, 1 girl from each team has the star on her helmet. I believe she's called the jammer. And then you've got 5 girls from each team that are up ahead, and the idea is they're trying to block the opposing jammer from getting through the crowd.
Oh, I
so
see.
once the jammer, gets through the crowd and comes around and starts lapping people, you score points for every person of the opposing team that you lap.
And they do it in a circle, right?
And they do it in a circle, yes.
Okay.
Very aggressive game.
Is there
it
any
looked like a
wild
lot of
names
fun.
out there?
Oh, there's some really good names. There was, Reenie Rinkrash, Doreen Lamarche, we've had in to discuss the roller derby. They've got Sizzle Her, a girl that enjoys her bacon, I guess, and came up with that nickname. They had an unfortunate incident in the first half with Willow Mina, who is Willow Aford, actually. She took a good hit and went down and landed badly and ended up with a broken leg.
Ouch.
Out of it. So the Derby girls are going to be without Willow Mina for a little bit.
I don't know.
Exciting sport.
I think I'd just watch.
They have seats around, that are seated on the floor around the track, and they actually call them the suicide seats. And we sat right on the corner, and we actually had a couple little people come through and down, and yeah.
In the day, you know, it used to be quite a TV sport.
I know it did.
Watch. Yeah.
Back in the day, I wouldn't remember that.
Yeah. Well, I used to get there by dinosaur.
Yeah, right.
Talking about roller derbies and so forth, you know, the silence coming from City Hall is unbearable. What is going on there, especially with the newly elected councillors? Are they afraid of Mayor Mary and her constant shadow, Councillor Rottenberg? The so-called resignation of the city manager is another example of let's not let the taxpayers know what we're doing. He received over $175,000 for resignation. I don't believe that's happening. And if it is, I think I would be resigning from quite a few jobs. After all, the council seems to say that they only elected us and we do not have to be accountable to anyone. Thankfully, we have Councillor Shushil Thapar asking the tough questions. Unfortunately, he is the only one. Come on, you newly elected councillors, grow some you-know-what, and stand up for what you promised in your election campaign. Honest, open, transparent government. Quit playing politics. Govern the city as it should be governed. Don't you believe that, Alison?
Definitely, Ron. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right. Oh, as I mentioned earlier, Nate had a chance to sit down recently with Bob Simpson, our MLA. In part 2 of their chat, they continue their discussion on natural resources. So let's take a look now at Nate in conversation with Bob Simpson.
Okay, we're back with Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Nate.
Okay, let's talk about mining now. Okay, you know, it seems that the area west of Quesnel is just buzzing with activity. But I'd like to get your perspective on it, because sometimes I think it's there's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of what ifs, maybe, whatever. Is mining going to explode west of Quesnel?
The potential certainly is there, but that potential is a result of the prices in the world marketplace, in particular for gold, but copper prices and all of the mineral prices are up. So what used to be marginal finds, especially the expansion, for example, of Mount Polley and Gibraltar, in a market 10 years ago, they wouldn't even contemplate that, but because of the world prices for those minerals, they can now. So the short answer is yes, there is lots of potential there. The problem with the mining community as a whole, though, and anybody who's involved in it will tell you, it's hard to tell the speculation and the people who are kind of playing the penny stock game and the stock exchange game from the real miners. And we actually have miners in my office all the time who are asking for substantial changes to the Mineral Exploration Act, to how the cells are defined in the mineral titles online, to stop the speculators and give access to those minerals to the real miners. So there's people, the miners are telling us there's changes need to happen there. But the potential is certainly there in today's market, and it's not just west of Quesnel. There's opportunities to the east of Quesnel as well. There's Spanish Mountain Gold and the whole kind of Barkerville corridor. There's lots of opportunity in there as well.
And so a few minutes ago, you mentioned about the provincial government going really quickly and opening up a lot of mines. How would you approach this potential expansion?
Well, again, more as a thought experiment, and I met with the Caribou Mining Association over this because they were kind of calling me to task around this. But as a thought experiment, you know, I don't understand why as a province, because again, those are public. It's a public asset. Those minerals belong to the public, and we give access to the private investor and to the miner through a license. Why we wouldn't step back and say, okay, we have X amount of mineral resources province-wide, rather than have it all be realized at the same time, come into the market at the same time, why wouldn't we have a 10 or a 20 or 30-year game plan for that so that we know we're going to have the workforce for that, that's mostly a British Columbia workforce, that we're going to have the expertise to go after that, and that we're actually going to put it into the marketplace without deflating the prices of the marketplace by flooding the marketplace. So, you know, we talked about a Natural Resources Commission that might actually look at a longer term time frame for realizing the benefits of those natural resources, mining in particular, and oil and gas, right? Instead, what you get in many jurisdictions is that you get this gold rush mentality or this mad dash to all of those resources. The natural gas in the Peace region is another example where it all comes out all at the same time. You then have to bring in temporary foreign workers. The investment comes outside of the province. A lot of the benefits you would normally get go outside the province because of that. And then all of a sudden the resource is gone and you're left with the baggage, right?
And I read just recently about Finland, where they discovered they had all this potential, but they've done it over decades.
Yeah. So. And I don't think, I mean, people will say that's a socialist approach or a communist approach or whatever the case may be, but really right now what we have is a situation where we have a lot of foreign money coming in, so the benefits of the profits are going out of the province. We are now talking about a lot of temporary foreign workers having to come in, skilled and unskilled, to get access to these resources. So it's not British Columbians that are making that money. And we've got the kind of gold rush mentality where it all goes in one generation. So that's the recipe we're on just now. I'm saying let's step back and think about that, and let's do it over a longer time frame to make sure the British Columbians get maximum benefits out of that resource.
Okay. Specific project, one of our favorites in this area, is the TASECO proposal. It was the federal government did not approve it first time, and now it's up for reconsideration. And there was a letter that was written to the federal minister Kent, the environmental minister, about not taking into consideration Aboriginal spirituality matters. The term Aboriginal spirituality was used.
Right.
What does that mean to you? I know you've been outspoken about it. Where's the solution?
Well, I mean, I struggle with TASECO's approach to First Nations in general in that area. The Tsilhqot'in are a very active, very organized group. I mean, you know, Nate, the Tsilhqot'in are one of the very few First Nations in British Columbia that actually went to war to stop the settlers from coming into their territory, and chiefs were hung as a result of that. They were hung as criminals, but they saw it as an act of war. The Gustafson Lake situation, in which again arms were born, was the Tsilhqot'in. So you have a group that has a history of protecting their territory. It's also an area that has the Williams case, the Williams court case, where a judge almost granted title. For the first time ever in Canadian jurisprudence, a judge was going to actually grant title to land, but gave government another opportunity to go back and do a government-to-government negotiation over that land. And Prosperity Mines sits right in that land base. So you've already got a very hot issue. You've got an issue that you've got a First Nations group that are very territorial and want to protect that, and you have TASECO that just seems to keep wanting to poke them in the eye. And I keep saying to them, at the end of the day, if that mine gets approved, you need a relationship with these First Nations. You need a productive, proactive relationship with them, and this is you can't get there the way you're doing it. So when Russ Halbauer, the CEO, signed a letter that said, no drumming, and don't take into consideration spirituality, he had to have known, because this is always in the court, that letter was going to see the light of day. It was going to be brought into the public. And again, I think it's just a mistake on the part of TASECO to not want a different kind of relationship with the Tsilhqot'in. And the final comment I'd make on that, and it's really a misunderstanding of First Nations, First Nations do not distinguish spirituality from the land base. They don't. So when you talk about let's recognize their culture, let's recognize their heritage, it's infused with spirituality. And TASECO even admits that Fish Lake was a spiritual area for the Tsilhqot'in. So why negate that, right? It doesn't set you up for a productive relationship with the First Nations. So I'm hoping that the panel gets to go. It's struck now. It's named. It's going to start the process. Gets to go through the process in a way that respects First Nations rights and the right of TASECO to make their case. And then we get a final decision on this case. If it's no, it's no. If it's yes, then we need to work with the First Nations to figure out how to get to yes. But no more second guessing the environmental review process. It already had no once. And you know, I've long maintained there's no point in having an environmental review process if you're not willing to accept no. What's the point of going through the process, right? So if it gets to know this second time, then that mine has to come off the table. And there's other mining opportunities in that same area that I think have a better chance of going ahead.
Okay. Last area, water.
Yeah.
You took a trip, I don't know, a month or two ago with Vicky Huntington, the other independent MLA in the legislature, and you went up to the Peace River area, and I think that you learned a little bit about, or you knew some, but you wanted to see firsthand about the practice of fracking, and also, did you take a trip over to Site C down?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd like to talk about both of those issues and how they relate to our water purity, our water, our ability to have pure, good water for our citizens. First, the fracking issue.
So this is one of those situations where I think independents, we were able to legitimize our role, because neither the NDP nor the Liberal government want to really talk about what's happening with hydraulic fracking. The NDP's position on hydraulic fracking, on oil and gas extraction, on the liquid natural gas is pretty much the same. They're both on the same page around that. And, and the Liberals are proceeding with Site C, and of course the NDP are sort of run hot and cold on Site C. When Vicky and I went up to the Peace, the people in the Peace region felt that they finally had two elected officials who were willing to come up there and actually try and figure out what was really going on, independent of the politics. So it was a great trip to us. Hydraulic fracking is this recent technology. It's been used in the last decade, where we drill a hole deep into the ground into what they call tight shale. So it's a bed of shale that has gas that's tight in it and won't release. But they go down into that shale bed, and then they go horizontally out from there on a number of drills. The drill actually bends and digs that way. And then they take water, huge volumes of water, because they're down about 2.5 kilometers into the ground. So it requires large volumes of fresh water, huge volumes of fresh water, sand, and then toxins, and mix it, and that's what the industry calls them, toxins. They mix it into the slurry, and then they jam it under high pressure down into the shale to cause the shale to fracture. The sand fills the fractures, allowing the gas to come out of the shale into the sand, into the pipeline, and back up the pipe. That's what the whole process is. But it requires trillions of liters of fresh water from the Peace region. They just put 2 pipelines into the Williston Reservoir behind the WAC Bennett Dam to draw off hundreds of thousands of liters from there. And one of the questions we're asking is that the best use of BC's fresh water? Basically, British Columbians get zero. We get no money for that water. 70 to 80% of that water is under a temporary license. There's no benefit to British Columbians. But the other aspect of, if the natural resource has no price on it, it will be abused, right? So you have to put a price on it. That's one of the things that we were saying. The second piece is that water is permanently and forever removed from the water cycle. So there's trillions of liters of fresh water mixed with the sand and the toxins. When it comes back up, it's called recovered water or produced water. It is highly toxic, and it has to be taken to another wellhead and forced down into the ground and forever stored in the ground. So if you think about it, what a hydrologist told us, we're taking that whole area up there and we're poking straw holes everywhere into it, and we're pushing all of this toxic water down in there. And he asked the question, what happens 20 years from now when the cement casing that's protecting the reservoirs, the freshwater reservoirs, starts to break apart, and all these straw holes start drawing all this toxic water up all over that place? So it's a massive issue. It's a huge public policy vacuum up there, and what Vicky and I are trying to do is fill it. We believe they should price the water. If they price the water, the industry can then switch to things like nitrogen to replace the water, and that gas can be recaptured and reused again. We believe that they should actually restrict the use of those toxins and get away from the use of those toxins, and that the whole industry up there needs to be more regulated, but more importantly, that the compliance and enforcement aspect of that industry needs to be separate. so that any regulations we have, and the industry told us that when we were up there, any regulations they have a very strong compliance and enforcement arm, making sure that everybody up there adheres to those regulations.
Would you feel, though, that there might be a case for prohibiting the practice?
So I would say that right now, because natural gas prices are so depressed, that we should probably do what other jurisdictions are doing and put, and it's taken me a while to get there. I wasn't originally there. But I would argue now that we could put a temporary moratorium on that practice because it costs them, $4 or $5 to get the natural gas out of the ground in the southern part of the piece, and they're getting $2.20 in the marketplace. You and I as taxpayers are subsidizing the difference. So therefore, put a moratorium on there and let's go look at the public policy issues. There's huge issues about climate change and GHG emissions from there. There's the water issue. That whole land base up there is getting fragmented with seismic lines and wellheads and roads and all kinds of stuff. There's no planning function. So communities, agriculture communities, are turned into industrial communities almost overnight, literally within 6 months. And then there's no cumulative impact assessment. We don't know the cumulative impact of what's going on up there. So I would say, I've said press pause.
Okay.
In today's down market, press pause, and let's go and really look at all of the public policy issues that are there. And then if we're going to start the industry back up again, it starts in a much more stringent public policy framework.
Okay, and you mentioned about the loss of agricultural land, and I thought that is one of your problems with Site C also. Yeah. Is that right?
Well, I have a couple of problems with Site C. Number one, I think it's too expensive. I think it's going to be the most expensive power ever produced in the world. It's going to probably be about a $10 billion project built by temporary foreign workers. And it's going to be on the backs of home ratepayers. Because it'll end up becoming a subsidy to either the oil and gas industry or the liquid natural gas industry or the tar sands. So I think the business case for that project makes no sense whatsoever. If we've got $10 billion to spend on a questionable dam in a questionable part of that river, then we should take half of that and equip your household and my household and John's household and everybody's household with the ability to be energy self-sufficient and to be an energy producer onto the grid. We'd go a lot further doing that than we would building that little dam on the piece. Okay. And then there's the agricultural issue. You've got some of the prime agricultural land in the province in that area. And in the world of climate change, that agricultural land, I think, becomes even more important, especially as we move towards issues of food security and 100-mile diet. It was quite funny in a sad way. We were up there, and Fort St. John has a food security initiative as part of their community initiative. And they're turning their flower beds and their community plots into edible foods. And after meeting with the city council and having them walk through how excited they were about that, we then went and had a potluck dinner on a piece of Class 1 agricultural land that will be underwater in Site C that could feed pretty much all of Fort St. John if it was put into full production. So there's a bit of a strangeness there in that. So the agriculture piece is certainly part of it, but I think the other aspect that I landed on is the business case just doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay, well, forests, mining, water, any other natural resource topic that you want to?
Well, I think in our area, the agricultural community is a huge growth potential. Market gardens, organic gardening, we've got room for greenhouses, all of that. So that's another aspect of it. And then, of course, as we're finding out these days, in particular, the other renewable resource that we have to really understand better is our fishing resource. And I think if government focused on the renewables, the forest, fish, farming, really focused there, then the non-renewable resources are your gravy. And you meter that over time, you get your gravy from there, but the real guts of your employment, your economic activities from the renewable ones.
Okay, so have the wider perspective.
Yep.
Bob, I appreciate that you took the time to come down here and have a conversation. Just one last thing, what's your plans for the summer? It's getting there. It's getting a little warmer.
Yeah, well,
Golf? Golf?
I don't golf.
Okay.
I croquet or
Yeah, okay.
play hockey, but it's always a time to get home.
Yeah.
We call it the barbecue circuit, so I'll be around in the communities, all of the community events. It's quite a fun time. Kicks off kind of with a stampede, and then Arts on the Fly and Horse Fly and Wells and Billy Barker Days, etc. And then August, the last little while, I've been grabbing a little bit of time for family time, so we'll do that again. I live in a sailboat down in Victoria, and we'll take the boat out and put the Blackberry away for a little while and get 10 days away with the family.
Yeah,
so.
you deserve it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being with me.
Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it. And now back to our hosts.
A comment on their interview, Allison. You know, he's talking about mining and water, and basically his message is this: we must be true stewards of our resources. We should not squander what the Lord has blessed us with. And that's a good point. We shouldn't be squandering those resources.
That's
we
right.
have to use them well.
And wisely.
And wisely, yes.
Yes. Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome. And well, as usual, our friend Dave Sutton was out on the weekend taking pictures of local happenings. As a matter of fact, I saw him at the Relay for Life, and we've got the photo of the day. And Dave took these pictures on Saturday, and I think he was there most of the day. And he's always flashing at the camera.
Yeah.
And he makes sure nobody sees him, you know?
I hear that he got a picture of you in there too. I think that we're going to be showing as one of the photos, Ron.
Oh, well, thanks for sending those in, Dave. Well, thank you very much, Dave. We appreciate those pictures very much.
We sure do. Well, we had another weekly winner in our Photo of the Week contest on our last show. Thanks to a sponsorship from the Lung Association of BC, we're giving away a copy of this great Golf Privilege Club book. And we've mentioned it many times, but there's lots of great savings in this book. Golf courses all over BC, over to Manitoba, and down into Washington State also. And even if you're not a golfer, it will make a great gift. So send your local photos into our Photo of the Week contest. You can't win if you don't enter. Our address is qcatv.ca. So send those photos in and get entered to win this great Golf Privilege book.
I was just flicking through this to see if they had a photo of my swing underneath, and underneath it they could say how not to do this.
How not to do it? Like that Rona commercial.
The Rona commercial, that's right. Next up, it's time to look at what's happening with our local community calendar.
All right, well, that's it for this show. On our next show, we'll have Ron Bax for some rumblings. And if you'd like to give us any feedback or comment on anything that we cover here on Q Today, you can contact us by email at qtoday@qcatv.ca. And if you'd like to be a sponsor or volunteer, you can also call Nate at 992-3650 or call John McKenzie at the station here at 992-8363.
And Allison, we're also set up on Facebook now too, so
Yay.
you can watch our show either on qcatv.ca, which is thanks to Eddie D'Souza, on Facebook at facebook.com/QToday. Big Q, big T, all one word. I think I should have pom-poms when I say it.
I feel like a bit of a cheerleader.
I do. So tune us in on either way, Facebook or on qcatv.ca.
Thanks, Ron. And remember, Q Today is produced by Q Mag, the Quesnel Media Access Group. Thanks for watching. And remember that our purpose is to get Quesnel talking.
Bye for now.
Hey, we almost did that in unison.
We did, just
See?
about. Yeah, we're getting there.